It's just luscious. Oh my God, who am I trying to be, Nigella? Luscious. That sounds like something she'd say. We're making a meat sauce today for pasta and noodles. It's a recipe from our new book, Comfort, and there's a little sneak preview of it. It's a pasta sauce that's very different to what you might expect. My children are always asking for Bolognese sauce, and of course I'm very happy to make it for them. But for me, you know, I'm craving something more, some spice, some more depth, some sort of Asian herbs. And this feels like the dish that satisfies them, but also me. Silky, it's spicy, it's deeply savory and umami. So it's a bit of an explosion in the mouth, actually. So I'm just going to start by adding the oil to the pan, and I'm going to saute my aromatics. So far so normal. It starts off like as though you're going to do a regular meat sauce like Bolognese. So you've got your carrot, onion, and here's the celery. And then I'm going to add 2 star anise whole. That's going to give it that real sort of spicy flavor of the star anise, and a cinnamon stick for warmth. So while that's cooking for about 5 minutes, we just want to kind of draw out the flavors from the mirepoix. I'm going to crush up even more spices. So I'm going to now crush up some fennel seeds and some Sichuan peppercorns. They add a kind of citrus flavor. It's also slightly earthy, and it gives the dish its characteristic kind of, there's a slight tongue-tingling effect. In Chinese, it's called mala, which is this sort of, you know, tiny sensation. It's quite exciting to eat, actually. Sichuan peppercorns. They don't have to be really finely ground, just roughly crushed. I mean, I can really smell it. Obviously, you can't, but it's just a very, it's kind of citrus, the flavor, and a bit woody as well. It adds a really distinctive flavor and aroma to a dish. I'll pop that there. And then I'm going to grind up the fennel seeds. Again, just roughly crushed. Just keep an eye on your veg. You want it at this point just to soften, because there's a lot of sweetness that comes out of vegetables that are coaxed very slowly, cooked in oil. What I love about this dish is that you can serve it with noodles, wheat noodles traditionally. We're going to serve it today with pappardelle pasta. So it starts out very much like a Bolognese sauce, but instead of the tomato base, this has a spicy bean paste. And instead of wine that you might use, red wine or white wine, this has a wine that's made from fermented rice, which is slightly sweet and slightly savory, and it just does a lot to cut the saltiness from the beans in the bean paste. So when the vegetables have softened, we can go in with the spices that I've ground. So that's the fennel and the Sichuan peppercorns, which add a lot of flavor. And we're just going to keep stirring that for another 5 minutes or so. This really helps to bloom the spices, which means that the flavors from the spices get released into the oil. So it's looking really good. The vegetables are starting to brown, and they're starting to concentrate, and I can also really smell all the spices and the sweetness, actually, from the vegetables too. And when you've reached that stage, you just transfer. You want to take out the vegetables. And if there's any oil and any sediments, leave it in there. That's all going to add flavor to it. And we're now going to add the meat. You can use pork or beef. I like a combination of the two. And you're also going to add the ginger and the garlic. And you can see already it's starting to take on a very non-Mediterranean kind of flavor. And you want to brown the meat a bit, so keep the heat on medium-high. The meat's brown, and this is when things are going to get really exciting with the spices. So here is that bean paste I was talking about, doubanjiang. It's a fermented bean paste that is also spicy. You can see from the color instantly that it's going to be spicy. You get it in Asian food stores. Any Asian grocery will have it. It's either called spicy bean paste or doubanjiang or doubanjiang. And we're going to go in with some soy sauce and the Shaoxing wine, which adds a sweetness but also counteracts that saltiness from the bean paste. You can see how silky and beautiful it's turning, and it really smells really beautiful. And at this stage, I'm going to add some water and loosen up all the sediments from the bottom of the pan, which adds a lot of flavor. And now I'm going to just put a lid on it, partially cover it, and just let it simmer away, tenderize, and for all the flavors to mingle together. So there's so much going on in that dish. You've got this bean paste, you've got the soy, you've got the spices. What we really want then is something to counteract all that, something cooling, something slightly acidic, and this is where the topping comes in. I'm going to julienne or just finely shred some cucumber, and I'm going to put it with some rice wine vinegar, tiny bit of honey just to sweeten it, and then we're going to put that on top when we serve it, just to provide that something cooling as a counterpoint to all that rich and spicy flavor. Right, so while the meat's cooking, you can also prepare the next little step, which is to thicken the sauce even more, because we want it to really cling to the pasta. And so I've got the corn flour here and some water, just to make a kind of slurry. I'm just going to add that corn flour mix, and you'll see that it will just kind of pull the whole sauce together. And at this point, I'm going to add some spring onions for a bit of freshness, sort of allium flavor and freshness and color as well. And of course, the vegetables that we fried off before, that's all going to be coming in there now as well. You can at this point take out the spices if you like, but I like it. I like it to go in. You just might need to warn your guests to look out for them and remove them. But they're pretty big, so I think you can easily take it out. And all that oil, I mean, I just love the color of that, because it just tells me that the spices and all the flavors are in that oil. So I don't want to waste a drop. I'm putting it all in. And now it's just a matter of bringing the two together. So you can see that it's not watery, it's not really thick, it's just somewhere in the middle. It's got a nice body to it, and it's just going to cling really nicely to the pasta or noodles. So, I mean, of course, spaghetti bolognese has its place. It's, you know, it will never be not a classic. But just to change things up a bit, this is a really nice alternative. And I think that's ready. It's glossy, it's neither watery nor dry. It's just somewhere luscious. So here's some pappardelle, which we're going to serve this with. As I said, you could serve it with noodles, udon noodles, wheat starch noodles. We quite like the idea of juxtaposing it with an Italian pasta after we've insulted them with this sauce. And then just spoon that sauce very casually on top. I mean, it's very much a home-style dish. And you see how that sauce just has that texture. It's clinging to the noodles, it's not falling off it, and yet it's not clumping either. And then, as a contrast, those lovely cucumbers that we slightly pickled. I'm just going to pop all that on. I mean, messily, it's fine, you know. I'm going to scatter some coriander leaves and then just rain down some sesame. And that's it. You can just all tuck in from the one bowl, or you can just bring to the table like that, and for people to help themselves. Yes, all of us, no?
Listen, the more the merrier. I think something like this is just more fun.
And if it's messy, let it be messy.
Go for it. It's so good. So good. Like, it really hits all the spots.
I think just that slippery noodles.
I think noodles are so comforting, right? As you say, they're
really
slippery.
is, yeah.
And anything that's in a bowl that you can just hold under your chin. I mean, if you're having this obviously by yourself in a darkened room. So good.